Hey guys, this morning we're gonna be continuing our talk about how to find square roots, and we're gonna learn a different way to do that today. So the first one I want you to do is make a sketch of the parabola y equals 2x squared plus 8x plus 6. So this is a review of what we did yesterday. I want you to find the x and y intercepts and then the vertex to help you make a sketch of this parabola. So you can pause the video right now, complete the problem, and then come back. So if you've come back already, we are going to show you how to graph it. So our equation, y equals 2x squared plus 8x plus 6. We're going to do our diamond rectangle. Put in our x squared and our constant, multiply. So what multiplies to be 12 adds to be 8, 6x and 2x. So we can plug those in. And then we're going to fill out the outside. So now we're going to set our product equal to 0. And using our zero product property, we can set each of our products equal to 0 and solve for x. So our x-intercepts are -3 and -1. We can find our y-intercept by plugging in 0 for x. So our y-intercept is 6. So now we're going to make our sketch. Okay, I'm going to plot my x-intercept of -1 and my x-intercept of -3 and my y-intercept of 6. Now I need to find the vertex. So I take my two x-intercepts and I find the middle. So we add them together and divide by 2. So my x-intercept is at -2. Or my line of symmetry is at -2. So now we need to find where on that line our point is. So we take that -2 and plug it into our equation for x. And we get y equals -2. So that means on our line of symmetry, our y-intercept is at -2. And since we drew in our line of symmetry, we should make sure everything is reflected. So I've got to reflect this y-intercept across. So here's 1, 2, 1, 2. And then we can draw our sketch. Okay, so now we're we're going on to finding the x-intercepts of y equals x squared plus minus 3x minus 7. So I want you to take a minute and factor this. So you should have noticed that this is not factorable because there's nothing that multiplies to be negative 7 but adds to be negative 3. So this is the case where we want to go to our Desmos. And if we type in the equation, it graphs it for us. And we can find the x-intercepts right here. And if you look at them, they are decimals, which is why we weren't able to actually calculate them, because they're decimals, and they're not nice decimals like 1.5. It's 4.541. So we're going to try and see if you can figure out the x-intercepts of a couple of these parabolas. So I want you to open up your Desmos and figure out the x-intercepts of these parabolas. So take a couple minutes, pause the video. There's going to be 4 of them, but I want you to record the x-intercepts for these 4 parabolas. So here's your first 2. You can pause, work it through your Desmos. And then here are your second 2. So once you have that done, we're going to learn a third way of finding our x-intercepts. So the graphing calculator is handy, but we don't always have access to a graphing calculator. So what we have here is an equation that is written in what's called graphing form. We have y equals x plus 1 squared minus 16. And the reason that it is in graphing form, or we say it's in graphing form, is because it's really easy to graph when it's written like this. So the very first thing that we can find is the vertex, just because of how it's written. So our vertex in this case is -1, -16. And I get that right here. The x value is the opposite of this number inside, and the y value is the number that's tacked on the end. That's your vertex right there. So now we need to get our x-intercepts. So our first step in getting our x-intercept is plugging in 0 for y. So then I have 0 equals x plus 1 squared minus 16. And the goal is to solve for x. So I need to get x by itself. The very first thing I'm going to get rid of is the number tacked at the end, which is -16. So I'm going to add 16 to both sides, and then that gets rid of it. So I have 16 equals x plus 1 squared. And now if you remember, to get rid of a squared, we need to square root. Square root of 16 is 4. But because we're squaring something, 4 works, but -4 also works. So when we square root this, we need to change it to be absolute value, because we have 2 different answers here. We have a 4 and we have a -4, because 4 squared is 16 and negative 4 squared is 16. So we're going to set both of those equal to our equation and then solve them each for x. So there's our two x-intercepts, 3 and negative 5. So from there, we can now sketch this. So I know I have an x-intercept of 3 and an x-intercept of negative 5. And our vertex is at negative 1, negative 16. And 3 points is enough to make a parabola. So we can sketch in our parabola, just like that. Okay, so this one, I showed you a nice number x-intercept. But what if we have those messy decimals like the ones we did on Desmos? Well, if we look at this problem right here, y equals x plus 2 squared minus 3, we're going to run into some decimals. So let's see how that looks when we solve it. So remember, our first step, we're going to plug in 0 for y. And then we can also write our vertex. Remember, it's the opposite of the number next to x, so that means a negative 2, and then the number tacked on the end, which is negative 3. And now we're going to solve these for x. So we added 3. And now we need to get rid of the squared by square rooting. And this is where the decimals come in. Because if we take the square root of 3, we get a decimal of 1.732. And that's equal to our absolute value of x plus 2. And since we have absolute value, we have two different ones, positive 1.732 and negative 1.732. And those are both equal to x plus 2. And then we can get our x-intercepts by solving. And here are our x-intercepts, which are decimals. So if we were to make our sketch of this, I'm going to plot my vertex, negative 2, negative 3. And then my first x-intercept is at about negative 0.2. And then my second, negative 3.7. So this is a little bit harder to sketch because they're decimals. But it's a way for us to sketch the parabola without using Desmos. So next, I want you to give this a try. Okay? So find the x-intercepts and vertex to help you sketch the graph of y equals x plus 4 squared minus 25. So I want you to pause the video, give it a try, then you can come back and I will show you how it's done. So I hope you paused this, worked it out, And I'm going to go through how you do this problem. So write down your vertex. Opposite of the one next to x, which is -4, -25. Plug in 0 for y. We're going to get rid of the number tacked at the end, so we're going to add it to the other side. We need to get rid of the squared, so we square root it. Square root of 25 is 5, and then the squared turns into absolute value. And absolute value gives us two numbers, 5 and -5. And they are both equal to the inside of the absolute value, which is x plus 4. That never changes, the inside. We don't mess with any of those numbers. And then we're going to subtract our 4 to solve for x. And we have our two x-intercepts of 1 and -9. So now we can make a sketch of these. So we have a y-intercept or x-intercept of 1, an x-intercept of -9, and then the vertex -4, -25. And then 3 points makes our parabola. And there we go. Okay, so now I want you guys to work on homework, and if you have any questions, make sure to come see me during 8th hour, and I can go over any of this stuff with you. Okay? Have a good day.